Hello everyone, Artie Tambarambaa, also known as Tammy Porter. Thanks for stopping by my YouTube channel today, and we're going to create this art journal page, but I'll take you through first what I used. All things art by Marlene, of course. I used that gorgeous grungy textured stamp. I used the Quotylicious quotes. I used that Hexagon stars stencil. I used an old collage paper. This one is still available. And I use white gesso and gel medium. I have linked all the codes in the description. Black and white marker, the sticky glue of course, and then loads and loads of paints, a couple of paint brushes as well. As far as paints go, I've used Lace, which is white, Funky and Punk, which are neon pink and neon purple. Then I've used Cheesy and Ballet, which is yellow and pink. Hot Curry, Ho Ho Ho, Kissy, Fuchsia, Envy, Sky and Azure, so pretty much all the colours of the rainbow. And then I'm using the A4 journal, which I love, but where the inspiration has come from is this page. So I did this page and put a photo up in the group, and it kind of went, people were going crazy for it. So I thought, oh, let's try and just recreate something similar. So the way I start this page, I do a double page. I don't pre-gesso. I've just grab out some of the collage paper, any that takes my fancy. Marlene has heaps. You don't have to use this one. You can use whatever you have. And then I just tear it into a couple of sections, and I glue a piece on the left and a piece on the right, and then usually another piece somewhere else. So I often work in threes, and I'm doing so here. So then I've got gel medium and the spatula of Marlene's, which, oh, I forgot to put that in the other video, but I'm just using the gel medium underneath the paper or on the back of the paper, and then I stick it onto the album, and then I also seal it with gel medium over the top as well. Now at this point I hadn't worried about drying off the gel medium, because I'm just actually getting colour onto the page first. So this is one of my favourite techniques to use. I use it all the time, and it's because Marlene's art, especially on collage paper, is already done. It's already beautiful, and it gives me the ideas for the colours. I don't have to think about that part. And I guess it makes me try other colours, because often when you're drawn to the same thing, you know, the same colours, and then you sort of repeat the same stuff. So this is a really good way to get me using those oranges and bits of reds and colours I don't naturally draw, I'm not naturally drawn to. So I'm basically just getting any of the paint that I can see on her papers, the colours I can see on her papers, onto the page. And I'm mixing quite a few of them with a bit of white gesso, just to give, I want the background to have some depth and some light areas. So I don't want it all super bright, because the eye gets a bit, this is going to be super busy. So I want the eye to have little places to rest if possible. So I'm just adding a bit of water to my brush, and this paper takes water really well. And then I am just popping it onto the background. So where I can see a bit of blue from the paper, I've extended that out a bit. Where I can see a bit of pink, I've extended that out a bit. Now, a bit of green, bit of orange. But as you can see, it's a hot mess. This looks so bad. And this is the point. You can even see the gel medium peeking through on the left, because I didn't dry it. But it's okay. It's more about just let's get the paint down. And then this step is where I start to try and think a bit more about what I'm doing. So I think I'm using Kissy here, which is a deep pinky red, and I'm just popping it in a couple of places, particularly on the joins. You don't want to go completely around all the join. You want it to look natural, but just in a couple of spots. I'm painting it on, and then I'm using that Hexagon stars stencil to do reductive stenciling, and I'm just pulling up some of that paint through the stencil using a damp baby wipe. And I continue that on, adding in some blue, which is the sky, and just doing it in areas. Sometimes I line the stencil back up, and sometimes I don't, and that's okay. So it just gives a bit more oomph and depth. So you can probably see that has happened. It's made it look a bit more natural already. So now I come in with mark making, which is just loading up some paint on my on a flat brush and just doing some big basic marks. And some of these, there was some of this already on the paper, so that's why I chose the Azure, because I could see that that had been done already on the paper. And then I decided to brighten up the orange and some of the green as well by adding a little bit of the cheddar, the cheesy, which is the yellow. So I'm adding that in little spots as well. And it's important that you have some solid colour bits as well as some stenciled bits, just to create that interest and makes you sort of look further into the page. And how did you do that? And, you know, whereas if you stenciled all over, it takes away that sort of ability to wonder. It's like, oh, it's stenciled all over. Whereas I think when you do a bit of both, bit of mark making, bit of patches, it just gives a more artsy kind of feel to it. So I'm just coming in, I think I've got Fuchsia now, which is a beautiful colour and merges really well if you've got like pinks and blues that you're trying to bring together and prevent that obvious mark, that obvious line in your work. It's really good for that. So I'm just popping bits of fuchsia, and you'll see it gives a real pop to the page. Yeah. Just trying to work out where I'm up to here. So I think this is Sky now, coming in with a little bit. Oh, it might be the green. It might be a little bit of Envy. And I'm just wiping it on and wiping it off, just in a couple of areas, just so that I felt like I had a lot of green at the top and it didn't match the rest of the page. So I just popped a little bit of green into the rest of it. So now I've come in with a flat brush that's a lot smaller, and I'm just doing the same thing, a little bit of mark making. I think I'm using Ballet and Kissy here, just so there's bold brush strokes and smaller brush strokes on the background. And now this is Funky, which is the neon pink, and I'm just popping this in a couple of areas with my fingers. I did rip off my gloves just because I was starting to realise I was going to get paint all over them. So I just like to rub a little bit into the background, just little pops. And now on the paper, so you can still just see where Marlene's paper is, and it gives it away with that splattered azure-y colour. So I repeat that all over the whole thing. And so you can't tell then where, I think it hides it really well, where the rest of that is, where the paper is and where there's no paper. So by splattering all over, that has fixed that. So then I did let it dry, and then with the leftover paper, so this is the same paper from the same collage sheet that I used in the background, I'm just cutting out some circles, because often when I just want to play and I don't know what to do, these are my two go-to techniques. So I often use collage paper to extend out because I like the challenge, and I also use circles often just because I'm like, I don't know what to do, that's what I'll do. So I'm cutting circles of different sizes, just eyeballing it by hand to trail across the centre. And remember, I'm kind of trying to remember what I did in the last video. I mean, you always go rogue, you always think, oh, I'll reproduce that, and it never happens. You always go off on a bit of different tangents, but it's pretty similar, and hopefully you enjoy it. So I'm just gluing them down. Now they are getting a little bit lost. That's okay, because I'm going to come in and outline them with paint and stuff as well. And I think the last page I went around the edges with black paint, and I decided, because this one, it feels a bit softer, feels like I've managed to keep a little bit more lightness into parts of the background. So I decided I want to bring that out. So I add some white mark making onto the page. I did find I have to do a couple of layers of this, just so that white really stands out. And I think I then go around so I grabbed Marlene's gesso, and just with the white gesso, I'm just going around the edge, and I will have to do this a couple of times as well, but I really liked how that looks on, you know, it sort of helps add in that white softness as well to the page. So yeah, I don't know if I've done white before. I always tend to gravitate to black, so this was something a bit different. More mark making, more going over those white layers just to help it. Now I did edit a little bit out here because the sun came in the window and I didn't notice, so I had to fix it. So all I've done is going over and over. I did gesso first and then I did Marlene's white paint around the circles and also more in the mark making as well. And yeah, I love how the white helps it all to pop. So I'm curious to know, have you done this technique? Have you grabbed some of Marlene's collage paper and extended it out? It's a real challenge to yourself, and I think that what you've got to remember is it will go through the ugly stage. There will be that time where you're like, oh my gosh, this is awful, and just persist, and hopefully you can see that through this video, that it certainly went through a bit of an ugly stage, but then the magic happened, and I love it, love the background. Love the colours. Yeah, so just persist and don't give up. Just keep pushing. So now I've grabbed the lovely textures stamp, and this is a nice little one that's in there. So I've used that with black archival ink to stamp sort of in the gaps in between the circles. I've kept it mostly through that centery section. And then I do the same with that bolder one that's in the same stamp set. I love this one so much. And it looks a bit painterly, and yeah, so that I'm really happy with that. And I kind of stamped it over the same areas, so you want your stamps to connect. You want, you know, your different size stamping to connect to each other, not fill in gaps completely, but cluster them. And then I've grabbed the scallopy one as well, and I've stamped that in, you know, 3 or 4 pages, or maybe 4 or 5 around the edge. Just to give it a bit of a border, and I will fill the rest of that border in at some point. And I haven't added that you also need to make sure some of your circles are hanging off your page, so they're going off, so it's a continued flow. You don't want the circles to stop short of the edge. And then I've also came in with some Gibberish, the Gibberish stamp set, because that, I think I forgot to put that in the video. I'll put it in the description, but I think I forgot to add it to the video. Whoops, sorry about that. Yeah, so I added some Gibberish over the top, and then I've come on with black pen and just doing a few loose scribbles through the white parts of the circle, so round and round a few times. And then I also came in with the black Marlene's black pen marker, and I'm going around the border, just joining that scallop so it looks like one border, and scribbling, not being too particular about it. And then I also came in and just filled in some of the gap areas with some black circles drawn by hand, and I will come in and add white dots to them to give sort of that black and white. So that's the, you know, a black and white pop with all of that colour. I find when you're using a lot of colour, you do need to have some black and white to ground it all, and these little dots will help do that, and I will do a little bit more of something else as well. So now I grab that marker, and so I've done some finer black pen mark, so now I do something a bit bolder with that as well. And I like how that looks. And speaking of a pop of colour, the first quote that I pulled out says, "Be a pop of colour in a black and white world." And I was thinking at that point about adding the black and white in, and I thought, well, this is perfect. Now, in Australia, we spell colour this way. In America, I think, and in other countries as well, you leave out the U. And so lots of Marlene's quotes have colour, and to me it's spelt, looks a bit weird. I know to other people it doesn't. I'm sure that adding the U looks weird to you. But I decided to cut up the quote, and I wrote my own colour. And so I put "be a pop of," and then I've got colour in a black and white world. And yeah, I'm really happy with that. You can just use the whole quote if you like, or it's nice to have some variance in your, you know, stencil work, or not stencil work, in your quotes. So some of the I guess the word colour, sorry, I'm having trouble speaking, the word colour becomes the focus. So just going around the word colour with a white gel pen, and that just ties it all into the rest of the page, and a few white scribbles around the rest of the quote. And I can't help myself, got to come back in and do more scribbles. I love this part. And then just finish it off. I just want those circles to pop a little bit. So I come in with a bit of the funky, which is the hot pink neon, and I think I do a little bit of punk as well, which is the neon purple. And I'm just doing just a finger swipe on them, and it just gives them a bit of pop. So this is where I do the punk. Yep, so I'm doing it on the circles, and I did add a little bit into the background as well. And that's one of my secrets to finishing off the page and creating little pops of vibrancy. So I hope you've enjoyed this one. I was really, really happy with how it's turned out. It's very much inspired by the other one, but it is a little bit softer in parts, and I love how much colour is on it. So it's, yeah, you must get those. You can see the background, you can see all those textured grungy stamps, and they just look awesome. So I was just wondering, can you see where the paper is? I'd love to know if you can see it anymore, and I'd love to know if you enjoyed this one. So leave me a comment, and if you haven't subscribed already, I would absolutely love it if you did. Thank you. Bye.